بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I am a reaver and I was taught how to pray salah.
That means every single time I pray,
the person who told me gets the reward.
5 times a day, from Fajr to Isha.
If you want to support someone like me in learning salah,
Then sponsor 10 people for just £100 this Ramadan.
remember the Prophet, peace be upon him, said,
Charity does not decrease wealth. Click the button and donate now.
Assalamu alaikum brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to support the channel and to donate to Salah Plus to help reverts learn how to pray this Ramadan. So for some reason, the internet has been on fire for the last couple of days because Andrew Tate and his brother decided to go on holiday to the States. As most of you will probably know, the Tates have been under investigation in Romania for the last few years, facing some very serious accusations, which their detractors are sure they are guilty of. And on the other hand, their fanboys are adamant they are completely innocent. In previous videos I've done on Andrew Tate, I have never spoken specifically about these allegations because these supposed events are alleged to have taken place before he became Muslim. And as Muslims, we believe you're absolved of all your past sins when you accept Islam. But since he's become Muslim, I have discussed Andrew Tate in the context of the positive and negative things he's done involving Islam. Tate is far from a saint, and even after reverting to Islam, he's been involved with wheeling and dealing when it comes to crypto rug pulls and online courses. Add that to his newfound allegiance to the far right when it comes to immigration and multiculturalism, and needless to say, he's not endeared himself to the global Muslim community, and it's pretty clear he is in need of religious guidance. But with all of that said, does that make him guilty of any actual crimes? His previous webcam business and fornication would be considered criminal in a Muslim country, but in the West, this normalized immorality is not considered criminal. And if we are completely honest, from an Islamic standpoint, the women who were involved with him in this sin are also complicit, even if they were coerced as is being alleged, as they still had the option to say no. Let's look at the first clip where Candace Owens gives her opinion.
We should also speak about what's happening with the Tate brothers. This has been insane. I got completely lambasted by the left and the right when I came out and I said I reviewed the Tate brothers case in Romania. Now, they were being held on house arrest. First, they were in a prison cell for months and they had no charges against them. Then they were put on house arrest for about 2 years. And finally, I just said, I'm going to actually read through this entire case because everyone's telling me, Candace, you're crazy. Like, they're so guilty. And then they were sending me all of these videos of Andrew Tate looking like he was 10 years younger, talking about how he has a webcam service and he takes advantage of women. And I thought, okay, let me actually take a look at this because maybe there was something that I'm missing. And when I read the case, I came out and I said, they're not going to be convicted on this. There's nothing in this case. There's nothing to do with Andrew 10 years ago, 5 years ago, things he said on the internet, things that he tweeted. The case that I am looking at is going to fall apart. Well, guess what? The case fell apart, okay? And it's kind of crazy because it was this sort of extrajudicial measures that were taken by a government. And it should scare you, irrespective of whether you agree. My perspectives on pornography are very clear. Even if you agree and you have every right to say that you don't like if they ran a webcam business, because you shouldn't, because pornography is bad and I think that it fundamentally weakens men. And by the way, if we're going to speak about getting rid of pornography, the very last people we should be worrying about is Andrew and Tristan Tate, okay? Let's talk about Hub. Like, really, guys, if we're going to go for it, let's talk about Hub. And so I just had the nuance and I read the case and everyone condemned me. How could you defend them? I'm just reading the facts and they're not going to be convicted. Well, guess what? That happened, okay? The case ended up being thrown out in Romania. They said there's no evidence here. It's exactly what I was saying. There's not enough evidence here to bring charges against them. And the prosecutors essentially were going to have to rebuild an entire case to try to charge them, at which case it looks like the Trump administration intervened because they are American citizens. And they were just brought back to America. They are now on American soil. They landed this morning. And for some reason, people are angry about that because they don't like who Andrew and Tristan Tate are. They do not like their online personas. They don't like the way that they speak to women. And so they're happy to have these men be wrongfully convicted for something that they didn't do. I cannot understand this logic. I cannot understand why you think you need to like someone or agree with their lifestyles in order to say that no person should spend a single second in prison for something that they didn't do. Like, that is the moral stance to have, that due process is right, and that if they are an American citizen, of course, they belong back on American soil. Could you imagine? We're going to take a look and he absolutely will not be welcomed here as an American citizen if enough people are outraged by it. No, the right thing to say is they have not, to my knowledge, been convicted of any crimes. They are American citizens. If you're not asking me about their character or what I believe about pornography, which we can wax poetic about all day, then yes, they belong here. That's what it means to be a citizen of somewhere. It means that you get to come home. If you're not convicted in a foreign country of something, you get to come home whenever you want. That's the right response to that. And I hope that as American citizens, we can all just agree across the line that that's the right thing to say and the right thing that should happen. And if something happens in the future and they get convicted of a crime somewhere else, okay, then what we should want for them is due process. If they get accused again of a crime, what we should always want is due process. And throughout that process, we can form our own opinions and we can look into the case and we can argue about it. And that's the way things should be. The owner of OnlyFans, welcome in Florida. That's fine. You know why he's welcome in Florida? Because he hasn't been convicted of anything and he's an American citizen. So despite the fact that I think OnlyFans is disgusting, absolutely disgusting, I wouldn't, of course, say that the person who created it belongs in America, because my issues with pornography doesn't mean that I just get to randomly convict people and tell them that they get kicked out of the country.
From what Candace is saying, after reviewing the Tate brothers' case, she found that the allegations against them are not linked to the content circulating online, in which they are doing and saying completely haram things. Again, according to Candace, she is of the opinion that allegations against the pair were flimsy, and the whole thing was an establishment setup. I don't buy the whole Matrix conspiracy theory Andrew pushes, but I can see why people would come after him for a payday due to him having money and a large social media presence. And that isn't just limited to the females who have accused him. Romania is a very corrupt country in general. This motive may well have extended to people in politics and law over there. And let's be honest, the Tates are no strangers to cutting corners and cheating the system to make money. Eventually that will catch up with you, especially if you're constantly going viral, flaunting your ill-gotten gains online. I agree with Candace Owens. The Tates' former lifestyle that makes up their case, and even elements of their current lifestyle, does not exactly represent a beacon of morality. But again, in the West, this is not a crime. In an Islamic nation, things like selling alcohol, running casinos, making and distributing pornography, fornication outside of wedlock, etc. is outright criminal conduct. But they were not doing so in a Muslim country. And despite how much I disagree with Andrew's recent comments and actions, I still feel it is unfair that he be in prison just because he is a product of the broken Western society he grew up in. Also, with that being said, it doesn't absolve him of any wrongdoing, as he did make a conscious choice to do what he has done to earn a living. Candace was right when she said that the pornography industry and OnlyFans are a major problem in Western nations, as they destroy the very fabric of society by decaying the moral fibre and decency within, which is just swept under the rug by the same politicians that are taking issue with the Tates for the very same thing. As far as her claim that the current American government helped the Tates beat their case, which I also suspected a few months ago, since the Tates were campaigning so hard for Trump to be elected. I mean, it is possible, but Trump and his administration have denied it. And yes, they aren't exactly trustworthy, and everything they say should be taken with a pinch of salt. And it may well be possible that the case just fell apart due to insufficient evidence, after everyone involved on a legal level had made their money from dragging it out due to the corruption in the Romanian legal system. Let's watch the next clip where Piers Morgan speaks to a US government official regarding America's involvement.
The Tate brothers being allowed to travel from Romania to Florida. And as things stand, he and his brother are innocent until proven guilty. The controversy about it is that they're likely to never face any courtroom now, either in Romania or the UK, where all these allegations have come from. And that's what is grating with people. The Tate brothers, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, have left Romania for Florida after travel restrictions were lifted. And it is believed that this has come as a direct result of pressure or just guidance or request for help from the Trump administration for the Romanians to allow this to happen. What can you say about that?
I am not involved in that. I can say that I read it just like you did. I saw that they lifted the restrictions on travel. These are not individuals that can exactly hide. So I understand that there's also some restrictions on them, even though they have lifted the ban on their travel. They still need to check in. They still need to report, as anybody does under an investigation. But what I can say is, look, this is an investigation. I'm not a party to the investigation. I don't condone, if it comes out to be true, anything other than being held accountable. But I also know that there is targeting that exists in these worlds. But I'll let those courts sort that out themselves.
I want to play two clips. One is of you on Benny Johnson's show talking about Andrew Tate, and then Ben Shapiro's reaction to it.
Hey.
Hello, Alina.
Hi. Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Well, nice to meet you. I'm a fan. You're the one saving Trump. You're doing more important work than me.
America, not just Trump. And I agree with everything you just said. And I think that your anger is the same that President Trump has for our country. And the time is now for us to stop being wimps.
Andrew Tate. He is not of the same ilk as President Trump. Find me the person and I'll find you the crime. That is true of President Trump. That is not particularly true of Andrew Tate. I think that the way that some people are defending Andrew Tate today is a conflation of a couple of different ideas. So I think there's a big difference between having people on, have whoever you want on. That's totally fine. Free speech and all the rest. That's totally fine. And cheering on bad people who don't actually care about your principles. And Andrew Tate is the latter.
What's your response to what Ben Shapiro said there?
You know, I'm so glad you asked me about this, all the Twitter trolls and the keyboard warriors. Here's the situation, Piers. You can say that somebody has issues. I don't know. I'm not the lawyer, and I wasn't speaking to that. What I appreciate is people that fight a fight. I appreciate all walks of life. I do not condone trafficking or some of the comments that Andrew Tate has made. But at the same time, you can say he is a social media presence. There are a lot of people that watch them. There are a lot of comments that aren't controversial. So to go to Ben Shapiro's comment, I don't think it's conflating. I think you can parse things out. If you look at the claims, some of them that they've made against President Trump, which were completely nonsense. And I don't know about the Tate brothers' cases. That's not my concern. That does not mean they're true. That also does not mean they're not true. You don't know. But in my case, I have sat through this where I know enough to know you do not post judgment on somebody until they have had a fair trial. Right?
I think what people have done, they've seen that interview with you went out in January this year. And here we are in February, the month after, and the Tates have suddenly been allowed to fly to America. And they're putting two and two together and potentially getting four, where they think that the White House has been generally sympathetic to the Tates' plight and has enabled them to fly to America. And the response from a lot of British politicians, the US now needs to step up. We have an extradition treaty with them. They need to cooperate fully. The Tate brothers stand accused of rape and human trafficking in the UK and must face our justice system, which goes to the point that it's not just Romania where they've been facing these charges, but also in the UK.
The Romanian courts lifted their ban. I have no part in that. I have had no communication on it. This is not at some directive. In their case, their country lifted a ban to allow them to travel. They still have restrictions. That has nothing to do with me. Now, if the UK wants us to move them back to the UK and get them out of Florida, that's something they're going to have to discuss with President Trump.
So why have the Tates been allowed to fly to the United States and avoid justice in Romania?
Okay, so again, we're not the Justice Department in charge of the Tates.
So as we saw, the US government official Piers is interviewing denies any involvement in Andrew's case. Whether that's true or not, I guess we'll wait and see. And I get why people are suspicious about it, given the American government's track record. It also became apparent that the Tates aren't exactly in the clear and have only had a travel restriction lifted, with politicians in the UK calling for them to be extradited back to Britain to face additional charges. It was interesting to see evil Zionist Ben Shapiro hating on Andrew by saying he is not on par with Trump. While Trump fully bows down and kisses the feet of Israel, whereas Andrew Tate has explicitly expressed support for Palestine and regularly donates to the people in Gaza and the West Bank, which is most likely the reason why Little Ben doesn't approve of Andrew. Bear in mind that there are plenty of Israeli citizens that are wanted for crimes, or worse, have been convicted of crimes in the West, on par with and much worse than what Andrew Tate is being accused of, that Ben Shapiro seems to be okay with. I guess as long as the pervs are Zionists, Shapiro approves of them being harboured by Israel and utilised by them in the IDF, and in some cases even in the Israeli government. Similar to the American lawyer lady, I do not condone the things that the Tate brothers have said and done in the past. But again, do these immoral actions actually equate to crimes in Western nations? Let's look at what Andrew Tate had to say about it.
We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever. Our case was dismissed on the 19th of December in Romania under the Biden administration. And our prosecutor recently decided, because we have no active indictment in court, to let us go and return. This is a democratic society. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, as my brother and I are. And I think it's extremely important that we stop allowing media spin, wrap-up smears, lies, or carefully constructed narratives from George Soros-funded operations trying to destroy the reputations of good people who have no intention to do anything other than follow the law. I'm very close to the Trump family. I know them well, and I spoke to Barron after the incident, and I look forward to, once I am free, being with Donald Trump in person and reminding him that he's a bulletproof badass.
You always get this grown-up version of Tate whenever he speaks to the press or when he's on a podcast, but then he'll be on his own streams with his brother doing the complete opposite, using racial slurs and degrading women. And from Tate's pro-Trump comments, I can see why suspicions are raised regarding Trump's involvement in Tate's case. Maybe Trump isn't involved in having the Tate's travel ban lifted, but who's to say Trump isn't involved in having the Tate's case dismissed overall by pressuring the Romanian government? If Andrew really wants to clean his act up, and that's a big if, the only way is genuine dedication to Islam, the results of which will manifest themselves in his actions, his outlook, and his way of life. The Muslims who defended him blindly have made the excuse that he's been on house arrest and not had the chance to study Islam or change his lifestyle because of this. I actually think the opposite. Being locked down gives someone the perfect opportunity to reflect and grow spiritually should they seek to do so. And let's remember, Tate is no one special. He's just a guy that is popular on social media and got rich from wheeling and dealing online. As Muslims, we just initially wished the best because of the influence he had over young men, but it's now apparent that before he guides others, others, he is in desperate need of guidance himself. And him visiting the US is neither something to celebrate, nor is it something to commiserate over. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join my free Telegram group via the link in the description, where we as Muslims can speak freely and without censorship about issues like this. And remember to like, subscribe and become a channel member for access to exclusive content. Until next time, inshallah, Jazakallah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.